Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Nikkor DX 18-55mm VR lens. Here it is. It's Nikon's latest budget kit lens and it's designed for use on its DX format range of DSLRs. Now it's most commonly bundled with Nikon's budget DSLRs and I've got it mounted here with the D60. It's a great combination with this camera, and if you'd like to learn more about the D60, check out our full review at CameraLabs.com. Now compared to previous Nikkor 18-55mm lenses, this one does have a great deal in common. It has the same 18-55mm range, which on a DX format body gives you an equivalent range of 27 to 83mm. It also has the same focal ratio as before, f3.5 to 5.6. The big new feature on this lens, however, is vibration reduction. That's Nikon's term for its anti-shake facilities, and it actually uses a special element built within the lens barrel that adjusts to counteract camera shake. And because it's an optical system, you'll see the effect through the optical viewfinder. That's very reassuring to see that stabilised view when you're taking your photos, and it will typically allow you to handhold at shutter speeds around 3 times slower than normal. And we've got a demonstration of how effective that is coming up in just a moment. Right, now let's have a quick look at the physical aspects of this lens. Like its predecessor, the lens barrel extends, retracts and extends again as you zoom throughout its range. Here we are at 18mm, and as I zoom the lens in, you'll see the barrel reduce and now increase again. Here it is zoomed into its maximum of 55mm. Now this lens, like its predecessor, is an AFS model. That means it features a built-in focusing motor, in Nikon terminology an SWM model. Here's a demonstration. So a little squeaky, but still much better than most kit lenses. Now one of the things you would have noticed, however, is that as the lens focused, this section at the end rotated, so that's going to be a little bit annoying for users of polarizing filters. Now if you flick a switch to the side of the lens, you can put it into manual focus, and in order to do that you'll be gripping the end of the lens barrel here and turning it by hand. Now again, that's not ideal. It's not as good as having a separate focusing ring on the main barrel, but in fact it does move very smoothly, and it is probably better to manually focus with this lens than it is with a lot of rival kit lenses where this end section can wobble quite a lot and where there's a lot of play. So not ideal, but better than most. Now let's have a look at how you might use this lens in practice. As always, we're starting with coverage, and this photo was taken with the Nikkor DX 18-55mm VR zoomed out to its widest 18mm position. Here it's working at an equivalent of 27mm and it's giving decent wide angle coverage, ideal for big landscape views like this. Now here's the same lens zoomed all the way into 55mm and working at an equivalent of 83mm. Now with a 3 times range, that's never going to get that close, but it's still getting a bit closer to your subjects and allowing you to give a tighter crop. Here's another shot with the lens zoomed out to its widest angle equivalent of 27mm, and again it's ideal for capturing landscape views or buildings, interiors or even reasonably sized group shots. With the lens fully zoomed in to an equivalent of 83mm, you can take reasonable portraits, but don't expect to be able to throw that background completely out of focus. You can do a reasonably good job though if you stand quite close to the subject, make sure the background is as far away as possible, and open up your lens aperture to its widest f5.6 position. If you're interested in this technique, we've got a workshop about this on our sister site, DSLRtips.com. The big new feature of this lens though is obviously vibration reduction, and that allows you to handhold shots typically up to 3 times slower than normal. Now that's not going to be any good at all if you're trying to take pictures of a subject that's moving, but if it's a still live subject then it can be extremely valuable. This shot was taken indoors under very poor lighting, and normally you wouldn't be able to handhold a shot like this without camera shake becoming a problem. But the VR facilities of this lens stabilised the image and allowed us to come up with something that looks very sharp. The Nikkor DX 18-55mm VR is one of the classiest budget kit lenses on the market. It may feature a fairly unremarkable 3 times optical zoom range and again an unremarkable f3.5 to 5.6 focal ratio. But the actual optical quality of this lens is a step ahead of a lot of rival models, and its build quality isn't bad either. I mean, don't expect miracles for the price, but it certainly doesn't rattle around, and it is also possible to do some reasonable manual focusing with it. The SWM focusing motor is a really special thing to have on a lens at this price. It allows this lens to focus pretty quickly, but especially quietly, and that's very impressive again for a budget kit lens, whereas most rival models would be making quite a lot of noise when they autofocus. And because this is an AFS model, it will also autofocus with all of Nikon's DSLRs, including the D40, the D40X, and of course the D60, which is what I've got it mounted on here. The icing on the cake though is of course the vibration reduction facilities that are very effective in practice. You really can handhold shots a lot slower than you would be able to normally without worrying about camera shake. Again, it really takes this lens beyond a lot of rival models. However, Nikon also has many other zooms in its range, so to find out which general purpose lens is going to be best for your Nikon DSLR, head on over to our full review. There you'll find results, sample images and current pricing for all those lenses. So once again, for all of that information, head on over to www.cameralabs.com.